Good evening, folks. It being 6 p.m. and a quorum being met, I'll call to order the Tuesday, November 4th, 2025 meeting of the Plymouth Select Board. Pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 20, any person may make a video or audio recording of an open session of a meeting of the Plymouth Select Board after notifying the chair, subject to reasonable requirements of the chair, so as to not interfere with the conduct of the meeting. At the beginning of the meeting, the chair shall inform other attendees of any such recordings. I'm not aware of any recordings by the public. We are being recorded by the local scene. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2025, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, which was signed into law on March 28, 2025, this meeting will be conducted via remote means and in person. Members of the public who wish to watch this meeting or any select board meeting may do so by tuning into the local scene cable access channels Comcast 9 or Verizon 47. You may watch the meeting as it's aired live, watch it on the local scene website, or watch it through a YouTube replay. Members of the public who wish to participate in the meeting may do so by appearing here in the West Elementary Cafeteria at 170 Plimpton Road in Plymouth, or by using the Zoom link, which is available on our agenda on the website. Please join the board in the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're here for an on-the-road session, so the primary reason we're here is to engage in a Q&A session with the public. But before, as we've done with our other on-the-roads, I'll first throw it over to our town manager, Mr. Brindisi, who will talk to us about a number of updates, many of which will be relevant specifically to this section of town. Mr. Brindisi?
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. So as listed on the agenda, we have a number of updates that are specifically for the West Plymouth area. I'll cover those in a minute. We do have a couple items that we want to announce just for the purposes of everything that's happening in town. So first and foremost, as you all know, there's a lot of projects, especially DPW projects, that are taking place on this side of town. You've seen over the last couple of weeks the water main replacement project that's taken place on Federal Furnace. So just so folks are aware, that's an asbestos cement lined pipe. We have in our water division, one of their top priorities is to remove all AC pipe across the community. So Federal Furnace is just one of those places that it's taking place today. So unfortunately, we did have a water main break that's been since repaired. The water has been restored. That happened today, but we're expecting this project to be completed in 2020 by December 2025. Additionally, often talked about a couple of years ago, the Select Board negotiated an agreement with Claremont Development to install a water booster station here in West Plymouth. So the purpose of this booster station is to move surplus water, which is now over in the Plymouth Center zone, over to the West Plymouth zone. So we do know we identified a water deficit, also known as a firm capacity deficit, back in 2022, I believe, and this booster station will allow us to cover that deficit. And then laid on top of the booster station, the DPW is also working on a new water source in West Plymouth as well. So the booster station is currently 25% designed. We're hoping to go to bid sometime, I would say, late winter of 26, and then construction will begin sometime in spring of 26 as well. It'll take about a year for the completion of that project. And then the water source is basically an additional drinking water well in the West Plymouth zone. We're expecting, assuming things go well, that this will provide for an additional 1.5 million gallons of water per day in the West Plymouth zone. So we're going to use the booster station to move water from the North Plymouth zone to West Plymouth to cover that deficit in the interim, and then once the new well is online, we'll have adequate water supply here in West Plymouth. So moving on, as you all know, we have the Route 80 sidewalk project. That was funded in 2022 at town meeting at $1.5 million. Total construction costs are $1.1 million with a small contingency. So we are definitely under the $1.5 million. As you know, this sidewalk project has just started, just about a week ago. This will consist of installation of new asphalt sidewalks, granite curbing, guardrail, and concrete ADA compliant wheelchair ramps. They will also, this will take place between Christian Road and Commerce Way. We're expecting this project, although it already started, to take about 3 to 4 months, weather permitting. There's also another project that I just want to announce that's going to be delayed. So we plan on doing paving on Somerset Street and Carver Road coming up, but that paving is going to be pushed to the 2026 construction season due to gas main installation by Eversource. So we're expecting this new gas main installation to be complete by mid-October. So once we'll be completed with all of our pavement programs by then, so we're going to push the construction of this street over to 2026. And then the Route 80 Cemetery. So again, $3.4 million was appropriated at the fall 2024 Fall Town Meeting. We've already designed the new cemetery. We have already gone out to bid with the new cemetery. There's a few things that we have to wrap up before we begin construction, so we're working with Mass Historic Commission and Mass DOT to address these remaining items before we begin construction. I can recall in 2022, when the Select Board at the time had to impose a moratorium on the sale of burial plots because we were running out of burial plots. And so for the folks that aren't aware, under the statute, we are required, every city and town is required to have burial space for their residents. So unfortunately, we were starting to run out of space, which is why we decided to put this Route 80 Cemetery project into place. So we're hoping to break ground late fall. Once that's complete, we are hoping to open up the cemetery sometime next fall in 2026. The Cemetery Commission has voted unanimously to name the cemetery the Freedom Memorial Cemetery. That recommendation will eventually go to the Select Board for consideration. So those are the items specifically. Actually, before I get into some of the global items across the town, I do want to address a few concerns that were raised by the steering committees in the neighborhood. So there was a concern raised on Montgomery Drive and South Meadow Road intersection. It says that there are reoccurring motor vehicle accidents in this intersection. So we've been working with the DPW, so we'll work with the DPW to cut back that area, that intersection, so we have better lines, sight lines, so folks can pull out into the road. So we'll look at that area, we'll cut back the growth. If it's private property, we'll certainly work with those private property owners to cut back the growth. The second concern was road signs and street name signs partially or completely obstructed. So again, this is more of an overgrowth issue. So again, working with the DPW, we'll go ahead, we'll take a look at the throughout the neighborhood. We'll look at the road signs and the street name signs to make sure that they aren't obstructed. But I want folks to realize that if you have a concern, especially DPW concerns, we have a program called See Click Fix. You go right on the website. You can click on there if you have a problem with your street. Say there's a pothole, for example. Maybe a tree has come down in your street. Maybe there's some flooding in your neighborhood. Go to See Click Fix. That's a really good tool that you can use. Your response, your concern goes directly to the appropriate department, and you'll get a response from that department in short order. And so just a few other concerns that were brought to our attention. Summer Street and Westerly Road intersections. Not sure if this is in our village, but very close. There's concern about signage being posted. So we'll work with the DPW. We'll look at this one. Need to get more information on that one. And then the Commerce Way and Industrial Road intersection, again, reoccurring motor vehicle accidents here, asking if we've checked the lights for timing and accuracy. So again, working with the DPW, we'll go out, we'll check that intersection, we'll make sure the timing and the lights are working correctly. If not, certainly we'll make those improvements. And the other one I want to bring up, because Mr. Quintal often brings this issue up to me and Mr. Geneo. There's a bulletin board over on Industrial Park Road, Mr. Quintal, and this has often been vandalized with graffiti. So the planning department is working very closely with the business association. So the business association is trying to make a determination on whether or not they want to just remove the directory or if they just want to clean it. So more to come on that, but we have recognized that that bulletin board has been vandalized. And then just two more quick updates. The Forges Field and the Hedges Pond Road Forges Field plan and the Hedges Pond Recreation Master Plan virtual meeting is coming up. So that's going to take place on Monday, November 10th. The first half of the virtual meeting will focus on Hedges Pond. That begins at 6 p.m. The second half of the virtual meeting will focus on Forges Field. That'll be at 7 p.m. So you can go on our website. We have QR codes that you can grab one of these flyers on the way out if you're interested. We did hold an in-person community gathering on these two fields, not well attended. So we're really trying to get folks to come out. We want to ensure that whatever comes out of these two recreation master plans really fits the needs of our community. So again, we need input as much as possible on these two programs. And then the last survey that is currently underway, again, is a community health survey. This is the first time ever. I've talked a lot about this in the past. It's being led by the Department of Health and Human Services here in town. So you can go to the town's website. Again, we're seeking input to fill out the survey. We want to know what health means to our residents and what we need to do as a community to make progress around public health. So please go to the website, look for those links, and help us make those determinations for years to come. Pending any questions, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brindisi. I know this wasn't part of your update, but you and I had spoken about 2 weeks ago about some issues revolving around trash haulers in town, and I think it's relevant given the news of the day. For the public, we've had a number of consolidations with trash haulers in the community, and it's become a hot button item. Can you just talk about what we might look into? Specifically, I'm interested in seeing if there's a way that we can provide some kind of service to the community that focuses the number of trash haulers, since I know multiple people have mentioned this. We often see, 3 or 4, sometimes up to 6 different haulers down the same street on the same day. So do you have any updates on that?
Well, so I'd say that, this has been a conversation here in this community that goes back over a decade. Trash and recycling, across the Commonwealth, I would say across the nation, is something that continues to be a challenge. There's different models out there. So some communities, usually large cities, they, out of their DPW, they operate their own trash and recycling program. So, they buy the heavy equipment, they hire the staff, and they're city employees who are picking up trash in the streets. So that's one model. That's, as you can imagine, a very expensive model. The other model is what the town of Plymouth used to use before they switched to the current model, and that is to put out a bid, select one rubbish hauler for the community. You can negotiate a reduced rate on that, and then the municipality then pays that rubbish hauler for picking up trash within the context of that community. As you know, there were lots of challenges that we had going back to 2015, 16, and 17 with, at the time, that rubbish hauler. So the town made a decision, I believe it was 2018, right, Mr. Janeo, to move away from that model to the existing model. And the existing model, as we all know, is kind of a free-for-all in the sense that every resident has their own ability to engage in a business arrangement with a rubbish hauler. So to your point, Mr. Chairman, because of that, you will see multiple rubbish haulers on the same street picking up trash on the same day, which can be problematic. And I think what we're facing now is that a lot of the smaller rubbish haulers are being bought out by largest rubbish haulers, and the service delivery isn't what we're expecting. And so, again, starting to have more challenges with trash and recycling. So I think that, given, and we've heard, complaints, especially over the last month or so, especially with some of the buyouts, giving everything that's happening with rubbish or trash and recycling, I think it's maybe time that we take a look at that, the existing model, do some research, maybe come back with some best practice recommendations, and think about, what we need to do for this community. I would say that the two models I talked to first, in all likelihood, will have a major impact on the budget. Right now, there's no impact on the budget as it relates to rubbish, because we now require individuals and our residents to go ahead and, work an agreement, a business agreement out with a private rubbish hauler.
Yeah, I think it's worth us putting a discussion on the docket in the near future to see if there's something we can do to alleviate some of the pressure and create a better service for the community. So we'll address that at a later date, but thank you for the update. Are there any other questions for the town manager? Mr. Cohen?
Yes. I see the Hedges Pond and the Forges Field. You indicated there was an in-person. I know that was some time ago. When was that again?
I believe the in-person meeting it was either a week or 2 weeks ago. It was recent. It wasn't that long ago. I could double check the date.
Well, it's a subject matter. Maybe it's my own fault that I didn't learn of this. But I've been trying to attend as many meetings as I can. I've been trying to attend as many meetings as I can, and maybe I missed that one. So 2 weeks ago, there was a Hedges Pond meeting?
It was approximately 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I had mentioned it at a previous select board meeting.
Right. Because I think that, the in-person side of the equation is important. If we're not getting the attendance, and it can happen, people, it'd be interesting to know what kind of outreach we're doing to generate people's interest in the in-person. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, we'll get to the real reason we're here, and that's for you folks. So just as we've done with our previous on the roads, we'll allow folks to come to the mic. You'll have 3 minutes to register a comment or ask questions. I'll ask that you stick to a single subject, not multiple subjects. If you have multiple subjects, you can always come back up later and discuss the new subject. But each time you come to the mic, please only address one issue at a time. When a subject is brought up, I'll allow for 2 additional comment or questioners to come up and address that same issue. Once we've had 3 folks speak on a particular issue, we'll move on to the next one. Doesn't mean that you won't be able to talk on that issue moving forward. We'll come back to previously discussed items towards the end of the meeting. I did have a request from one member of the public to get up and speak sooner than later because she has a meeting to get to. So Ms. Gerhardt, would you like to kick us off here tonight? Come on up.
Good evening, board members. I don't mean to usurp anybody else, but we have another Conservation Commission meeting to go to at 7, so that's part of what I'm going to speak about. My name is Wynn Gerhardt. I've lived in West Plymouth for 38 years, just kind of across the street, Megansett Drive. And I wanted to speak about, as we all know, there's been a lot of development in West Plymouth over the years. I've lived here as long as I said. When I first moved here, everything was just woods, so I've seen a lot come along. And my concern is that we have a process with the planning board and the ZBA, and when we have developers come in for special permits, through discussion on the project, there are often conditions on these special permits, which are important. I mean, they're the only way that the town can actually condition and put on issues that are of importance to the community. And my concern is that these conditions on special permits are not enforced uniformly going forward. Sometimes it takes a lot of time many times it takes a lot of time for a project to be developed. And in the end, the conditions are not enforced. I think specifically with the development around Cranberry Crescent in particular. That goes way back, actually, to about 2000, I believe. There was a plan developed with one developer, and then around 2013, another developer came along. And there were conditions that the West Plymouth Steering Committee was very involved in on the landscaping. And particularly, I want to talk about buffers to the development that we see, because we have so much development here. I think it's only fair to the community to have landscapers do as much as they can to landscape and buffer the roadways. With Cranberry Crescent, there was and still is actually a very detailed, elevated vegetation plan along Route 80 that was meant to create a visual buffer, a sound buffer. It's never been implemented. And back in 2013, the Select Board, the Planning Board, and the West Plymouth Steering Committee walked that property. The plan is in the files, and it's never happened. And in fact, what happened was, through research, we discovered that both the town and the developer improperly cut trees down when that property was being developed. So, that's history. We would still like it to be enforced, but going forward, I feel like it's important to make these conditions on these properties, on this development, and then stick with it. Similarly, with Cranberry Crescent, there were not supposed to be any more curb cuts because it's in the middle of, it's Route 80 and Carver Road, both busy roads. There now is a new development going in there, a car wash and a gas station, which will be very busy, and there's a new curb cut on Carver Road, which I think is a recipe for accidents to happen. So I think we put these conditions on for a reason, and going forward, I feel like the community deserves that they be enforced.
Ms. Gerhard, you've exceeded your 3 minutes. How much
Okay,
additional time do you
that was
need?
my main point. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Would anyone like to respond to Ms. Gerhard's concern? Mr. Town Manager?
This timely request, I had a meeting this morning with our Planning Director, Lee Hartman, who has assured me that the Planning Department will enforce that order. They've been working with the owner. They've had some challenges with the previous property owner, so they're working with the current property owner to make sure that landscaping meets the expectations of the planning board that was originally issued as part of the special permit. So I'm hoping, you probably won't see anything this winter because it's, planting season is over, but it would be my expectation that we see something in the spring.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, Wynn, thank you very much. I served on the Zoning Board of Appeals at the time that the buffer was removed. The buffer was on the land owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the town, and the developer of Cranberry Crescent removed the buffer. There was, as Mrs. Gerhard indicated, there was an agreement where they were going to come out and install a buffer. They installed an oscillating berm. They installed buffer material, but it never really was to the level of that we had hoped. A number of months ago, some of the neighbors and myself did engage the planning department on the status of that buffer, why it hasn't come in to the extent that it was planned to. It looks like it has been managed by the property, by Cranberry Crescent, has been, they have been landscaping that area. So we haven't got the same type of buffer that we have on Carver Road in that apartment complex. There's an apartment complex on Carver Road that was built a few years back. An oscillating berm was built, and a buffer was planted. If you've seen that buffer, that's the type of buffer that we were hoping for on Carver Road 10 years ago when this event happened. So I do know that the planning department has been in contact recently with the owner about it, and they have already gone out and started planting things this season. Most of it's ornamental shrubs, and we're really, the neighbors and myself and my conversations with the planning department, we're advocating for more evergreens similar to what we're seeing on Carver Road, because there are residential areas abutting this very busy, large shopping center. And this center is only not completely built out. So there's a whole section over by Route 80 that hasn't been built out, that will get built out. So this is a great time to get that buffer going. So when they go to build out the rest of the shopping center, they'll have a substantial buffer again to protect the neighbors from the lights and the parking in the shopping center. So I think there's a lot of work that has to be done on building up that buffer on Route 80, because the one that there is now is not meeting the expectations of everyone. And I do note that the planning department has noted this. They are in contact with Cranberry Crescent, but there is some planting that's going on right now, and I hope that any planting that goes on and continues is at the same type of growth that we see on Carver Road over by that housing complex next to the Market Basket. That's a good example of what we're looking for. But I think the work is still a lot of work that needs to be done out there on Carver Road and, excuse me, on Route 80 on this buffer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cohen. Anyone else? Very good. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak on development in West Plymouth?
Hi, my name is Judy Barber, and I'm the chair of the West Plymouth Steering Committee. I would like to welcome you to West Plymouth, and I'm delighted that you reach out to us, because a lot of people probably don't go down the town hall, but this is really great. And the other thing is you have closed caption. That's two major things that we're delighted with. I was also on the West Plymouth Steering Committee when the Route 80 project was going in, not from the very beginning, but from later in when they were talking about the Route 80. We typically don't get involved with implementation of the various projects. We review special permit projects for business. And so once that's issued, we typically don't get involved as to make sure it's been done. But I think after what we've seen recently, we really need to get more involved in that. If there's a landscape plan, well, then the landscape plan should be completed. So I would think we'd be able to work out the differences, because the opinions vary as to whether the job is done versus not done. What I plan to talk about is that we have 5 different spots that we're a little concerned with the safety of the pedestrians and of vehicles. And you touched on some, so I'm not sure if you covered all of these. We have 5 areas, but I'll just go through them quickly. And essentially, I'll just read this. The West Plymouth Steering Committee has completed a list of topics that we would like to be discussed at the next town hall on the road meeting on Tuesday, November 4th at 6 p.m. at the West Elementary School. Several members will be in attendance. The first area that we have concern, and we did submit this list to you, is at, sorry? Okay. Montgomery Drive and South Meadow Road intersection. That's of concern. There are recurring motor vehicle accidents at this intersection. We suggest that the brush be cut back on both corners for increased visibility. The next one is road signs and street names, particularly partially or not completely obstructed. And we suggest that branches and overgrowth be removed from and around any sign any signs that are obstructed. Would this be more appropriate for quick fix? The third area that we're concerned with is Summer Street and Westerly Road North intersection. And we're not sure if this is in our village or not, but we suggest a more pronounced signage be posted that this is an access road to Route 3. And the fourth one is Commerce Way and the Industrial Park intersection. There are recurring motor vehicle accidents at this intersection. Have the lights been checked for timing and accuracy? possibly adding directional arrows if necessary and/or signage to facilitate smooth transition through the intersection. And the last one is flashing speed limits should be implemented on busy thoroughfares such as Federal Furnace, South Meadow Road, and Carver Road. And there are several other locations, but those are what we want to raise for you. So, we hope you'll consider that in your deliberations, and we'll be able to move on with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barber. I think the town manager addressed this in his opening statements, but is there anyone else who'd like to respond? Mr. Canty?
So thank you, I appreciate that. I grew up in West Plymouth. I live in North Plymouth now, so don't hold that against me. But when I was growing up, we considered West Plymouth to start on the other side of Route 3. So although now when you drive into West Plymouth, there's a sign by the Walgreens, so I guess we're losing ground over time. But either way, I think that the Summer Street and Westerly Road is close enough that it's a local concern because you're driving through that area a lot, especially if you're getting off the highway to go off the old exit 6 and come home. But particularly for things at specific intersections or more spread throughout the community with obstructed signs, whether they be a stop sign, one-way street, yield, or a road sign like, this is Columbia Circle, this is Esther Road, this is Montgomery Drive. If there are concerns with that, the most effective way to address that is through See-Click Fix, because if you do it on a phone, it has a geolocation on it, so not only does it put it directly to the department and in their work queue, so they'll address it automatically in the order that they can get to it, but it also puts exactly where that is, so they don't have to spend any time looking up like, oh, where is this intersection, in case it's an off-street of an off-street, like many West Plymouth neighborhood streets are. So I would very much recommend, I think See-Click Fix, many of the solutions are DPW related, but I think that it is an incredibly useful tool for addressing very local concerns immediately, and you'll often get them addressed within several business days, much faster than it would be even if you get a select board member on the phone. So that would be my general advice, is to avail yourself of that opportunity. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, Judy, if there's a chance you could send that to the board, your outline. I saw you reading from point by point on your things that the steering committee had pointed out. So that'd be a great thing that if you could send it over to us, we could take a look at that too. But obviously, as Mr. Canty indicated and the town manager has indicated, See-Click Fix is an opportunity that some of those things could be addressed. But thank you.
I have Ms. Barber's list, so I'm happy to send that out to the board later tonight. Anyone else? Very good. That kind of, I think, went into traffic issues, so I'm going to pause on traffic issues for a moment. Is there anyone in the room who would like to speak on development in West Plymouth? Come on up and introduce yourself.
Hey folks, nice to meet you. My name is Nate Moore. I live on Cook Road. I happen to be the vice chair of the West Plymouth Steering Committee. I wanted to put a fine point on what Wynn was talking about. I happen to work with her and Bill, although I'm the type of group teammate project that everyone fears. I just showed up with a pencil and a smile and really did no work, but I did a lot of observing. And I think what really struck me, especially in the context of Cranberry Crescent, but really using that just for illustrative purposes, right? I think there are details that we need to get into with that. But I think a general comment and an issue we ran into when talking, with folks in the town, whether it's planning board and others, that there's a real issue with following up on special permit enforcement in the town. And I think this is a unique issue that the select board should look into. I think the response we got from the town when we talked to them about it was that there is a dedicated team of employees with the town that are tasked with following up on these special permits, but they're under-resourced and simply don't have the time or the ability to follow up on every special permit, which I understand. The concern that I have, especially as a resident of West Plymouth, is that if bad actors or businesses that are not motivated to do right by the town also come to that understanding on their own, that sure, they can agree to these special permit requirements, but no one ultimately is going to follow up on them, then my concern is that we, the residents, are going to pay the price of that, right? I think as you look to West Plymouth, we've received really the brunt of industrial development over the past couple of years, whether it's Market Basket or Walmart or others. My concern is that, the quality of life is really going to be impacted in a negative way to West Plymouth residents if you, as a select board, or you as a town, don't take the idea of holding businesses accountable and making sure that not only are they following the letter of the law or the regulation as it relates to these special permits, but also the spirit of it. Using this specific example of Cranberry Crescent, I think we could probably have a spirited argument about whether or not they're following the letter of the law when it comes to the landscaping out on Route 80. But if you just look at it, it's almost laughable, right? I mean, we received over the past couple of weeks a couple different photos, and they're like, yeah, we put some bushes out there, the problem solved. It's like, but as a reasonable person, you can look at those photos and understand it's not addressing the spirit of that regulation in the first place. It's not making West Plymouth a better place to be as a resident. And we're really depending on you, the select board, and you, the town, to hold these businesses accountable, because it's very difficult for us as private residents to do that. And I think it's worth preserving the quality of life and our freedoms as individuals within West Plymouth to really follow up on these things and invest in it as a town. So I think this has been my first foray into town politics, and I think it's frustrating, and you feel like you're powerless sometimes to hold these folks accountable for the special permits. So I'm just asking, when the opportunity comes up, to think about investing in that town function further, so we can really preserve the rights of private citizens. So anyways, thanks for being here in West Plymouth. Hope to meet you all one-on-one at some point, but thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Is there anyone who'd like to respond? Mr. Canty?
So I appreciate the focus on enforcement of special permits in particular, because we are in the process of building and assessing our budgetary priorities for the next year, which there's always more that the town wants to do than we're able to do because we have to live within our means. We have our own priorities as individual board members, but hearing from residents about what is affecting them in their communities is also very informative as well. I think we definitely should look at how we're currently enforcing existing special permits, the resources that we're giving to effectuate that. The board also appoints members to the Zoning Board of Appeals, so making sure that that people are being thoughtful in the special permit requirements that they're imposing, because if we're imposing far more special requirements than we could ever reasonably enforce, that's something we need to weigh as well. We need to have those special permits be rationally related to what we're trying to achieve, and be something that is reasonable for that business to do and for us to actually be able to meaningfully enforce that. So weighing that. And then when we have joint meetings with the planning board, they involve themselves in some special permits as well. We can bring up the topic of this special permit issue that we heard about in West Plymouth and talk about involving that more in their deliberations as well. So I appreciate you and some of the other speakers bringing that to the forefront. That's something we can definitely consider more comprehensively going forward, because I agree. As I said earlier, I grew up here, and when I was a kid, Commerce Way didn't even exist, so I've seen Walmart come in. I mean, I was just the other day, I was remarking, when I was a kid, Eastern Bank was Plymouth Savings Bank, and now it's one of 5 banks, like in an area you could throw a rock at the corner of Industrial Parkway and Plimpton Road and hit 5 banks. It's an interesting development. I don't know why there's so much need for banks, but it is what it is. But we'll certainly take that into consideration and look forward to trying to improve things, not just here, but elsewhere in town as we continue to develop as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Canty. Before I go to you, Mr. Cohen, I just want to let folks know that Mr. Quinto, our vice chairman, is going to be departing this meeting a little bit early. He's going to be running up to Town Hall to attend a meeting regarding the Pulte development in North Plymouth. It's something that's very important to the community in way of development, so I think it's timely in our discussion now. I want to thank the vice chairman for being the eyes on the ground for us at that meeting, and I'm sure you'll have some information for us next week, or next week.
And if we adjourn early, I'll definitely come back, I'll text you.
Excellent, thank you for being there. Mr. Cohen.
So that's a very good point on the follow-up to these meetings and what will be the result of a zoning board of appeals that meets for a great amount of time. I sat on the zoning board of appeals, as I mentioned before, and I've mentioned a number of times. That was an experience that shows me the energy that staff and residents and petitioners and their representatives put into this process. And at the end of a series of hearings, we come to an agreement, and there's an order of conditions, and we want to see those enforced. And that is where I think we need to strengthen the town's ability to make sure all the good work that went into this process happens as we hope that it happened at that meeting. When we take in the neighbors' considerations, the petition's considerations, the board makes a decision, we have our order conditions, and we always want to make sure that town staff is at a level that can enforce those conditions. So it was a very good point, and I think that when you do look at the Route 80 landscaping, that is a textbook example of where something might have fallen through the cracks, because it's been nearly 10 years since that hearing, and we're still grappling with the effects of it. But it is true, Kevin says he mentioned how he recalls when he was a young person, when I was a young kid, when we drove past A&W on Route 44 and headed out to Sacred Heart, there was nothing but trees the whole way. So that was a little bit before your time, but West Plymouth is growing, and it is taking on a level of commercial development, and we have to understand that it does have a high level of residential development, and through the permitting process and through follow-up to meetings and boards enforcement, protecting the interests of the residents here at West Plymouth should be paramount to our community. Thank you.
Thank you. Since Ms. Barber's comments were more in line of traffic, I'll allow for one more on West Plymouth development. Is there anyone in the room who wants to speak on that? Is there anyone online, Jade?
No.
All right, thank you very much. We'll move on to traffic issues. We had one comment on that. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak about traffic? Come on up and introduce yourself.
I'm Paul Blanchard. I now live in Westwood Village, but 50-plus years ago when I moved to Plymouth, as you were saying, if you had some reason to go out Route 80, you were kind of going through the primeval forest. But since then, a lot has happened, and even since Route 80 was originally built, there's a lot of development along the road. There are several, there's the school, there's several other things. The sidewalks are very welcome, but my concern is the speed limits, which vary up and down the road. We had another bad accident this afternoon, right down by Village West, the secondary exit coming out of Village West that included one of the police ambulance. So we've had several. We've had several at the intersection with where we come out at Westwood Village. And the problem is the speed limit varies from 30 miles an hour down as you approach Somerset Street to 45 miles an hour if you're coming out of Kingston. And the people coming out of Kingston are sailing down the road. And all of the development and the houses that have been built there over the years are all now having to come out into this increased traffic. And the traffic has been, it's been a tremendous increase just in the 7 or 8 years that I've been in Westwood Village. But the continued development at Commerce Way and the potential development at Sacred Heart, which would increase considerably more traffic coming in the direction from Kingston. It seems to me with the amount of development that's along that road, the speed limit ought to be 30 or 35 all the way. And I think a major part of the problem is the 45-mile-an-hour limit of people coming from Kingston and going east. So.
Thank you. Is there anyone who'd like to respond to? Go ahead.
Traffic, with a road that's posted, traffic solutions are often complicated because it requires a study, and people tend to speed, sadly. And then if there's not enough accidents during the study and people are speeding, then often the speed limit can actually be raised as a result of studies, which is not what people are looking for. So it can be, if a road isn't posted, like we have the ability through action that was taken through town meeting a few years ago that we're looking into, to reduce the speed limit in thickly settled, non-posted roads through a different process that doesn't require that, and that could solve some of those problems in some of those areas. I do think that something like, there's unique challenges when there's an intersection with another community that has very different standards and development within that community. And I know a few years ago when there was talk about the Sacred Heart High School property being turned into a significant residential development with no resources being provided to it, and it was basically going to be on us to provide services to this development on the border of their community. That was troubling to the board at that time. But just traffic, because of the standards that were under statewide, it can be more challenging to deal with speed limits in a way that actually addresses residents' concerns, because unfortunately, people do, this is Massachusetts, people do tend to drive in a unique style, and that can have some adverse consequences. So we are mindful of that, though, when we're considering that, as is the DPW. So we hear the concerns, and things like the flashing signs to remind people of the current speed limit, things like we're soon going to have at our disposal portable, essentially speed humps that can be put in a limited number of areas occasionally to try and encourage people to comply with certain speeds. There's speed tables, so they're regulated to a certain level of speed. But that's something that we can look at as well to try and get people to adhere to the currently posted speeds, as opposed to some other solutions that may not actually be available to us. But thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else in the room who would like to speak on traffic issues? Jade, is there anyone online? No. All right, we'll move on. Is there anyone who would like to speak on any other subject? Come on up to the mic and introduce yourself.
I have a handout. Good evening. Thanks for letting me speak. I'm Joe Paulsonello, and I'm a senior citizen, 77 years old. Saturday, I was awarded the successful qualified bidder for the sale of 0 Spooner Street. No idea of the status of the sale that's going on. I get no response from anybody. I got a letter, I awarded it, you have my deposit since March. There's a tremendous amount of environmental, health, safety factors that have to be addressed. I was ready, willing, and able to do it in April and May. But there was dead silence here. Fuel tanks, but the biggest thing is the PFAS. The town manager on August 21st, when we met, said, PFAS is in soil. We were wrong. It's in groundwater, it's in an aquifer, but the most dangerous thing of this carcinic, cancer-causing PFAS, it's throughout the interior of the building and in the residence. That needs to be decontaminated. That was my program. But most of all, it's going to be my residents. I really felt I was doing a good thing. Instead of where we are right now, I thought I'd be sitting around talking to you people. Welcome to the town. We're happy we're doing. Boy, you're taking a tremendous thing. The only response I got was the town manager, September 2nd, asking me why I was attending these meetings. Why are you here? You shouldn't be here. Why are you here? Then that night, your town council calls my lawyer. Just didn't take the call. September 30th, the same thing. The town manager. Why are you here? You don't need to be here. I'm saying to myself, I never heard of such a thing. Then there's an email I sent, which is I'm a very responsible person. I'm in this business. Health and safety, fire, all this stuff. I did it for years. FEMA. Look at my qualifications that are in there. I made sure that the fire department, everybody knew. Town manager emails the fire chief. Tell Paul Sinello he doesn't own the building. He doesn't need to be allowed to go in there. What was that all about? I have an absolute right. Unless you do something here, you have my deposit. What the town manager should have told the fire chief was, thank goodness Paul Sinello is alerting us. Get together with him. Find out, let's make sure the electric shut off, there's no alarms. Got slate roofs falling off, endangering the public. Asbestos. Board of Selectmen, you can't sit on your hands and put your hands in the sand, okay? Your head's in the sand. You have legal, real estate profession, business acumen. You have to do something. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Paulsonello. I will say that the matter is subject to an executive session, so there's not a lot we can say here right now.
If you're talking about me, you should bring me in that executive session.
Well, that's not how executive sessions work when there's
No, I know how
a real estate
executives.
transaction.
I've served on towns. I've been involved.
Understood, sir. So we're not going to be able to respond to your specific requests tonight, but we will be in touch.
It's a sad thing. The Pilgrims experienced this, they would have got back on the boat and went back to England.
Thank you for your comments, sir. I'll also say I've worked with Mr. Brindisi in a variety of capacities during my time as a volunteer for the town government. He's been nothing but responsive and encouraging to our community to have residents get involved. So I do apologize if you feel that you were snubbed, but I do think that Mr. Brindisi does an excellent job working with our community.
Are you kidding me? Ask him why I'm attending these meetings?
Sir, your 3 minutes have expired.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask that you take a seat. This is now the board's time. Is there anyone else from the board who'd like to say something? All right, thank you. This is an individual issue, but I will certainly ask, is there anyone else who'd like to speak about 0 Spooner Street? Anyone online? All right. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak about any other subject? Mr. Fosdick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Ken Fosdick from Plymouth Airport Commission, Chairman. With me tonight is Matt Cardillo, the airport manager, Doug Cresciati, Vice Chairman, and Peter Connors, member of the commission. I'd just like to give you a quick update since the town meeting, moving forward with the rebuild of the runway. There's a meeting scheduled for this Monday with the FAA and our engineers to go through the pre-examination and setting up the goals. We will continue to, so that's where we're at with that subject matter, assuming then they're all going to be there and working at that point. So far they have been. We are going to continue to work with the Community Advisory Committee, and as I mentioned at the town meeting, the possibility of the extension has been moved off for several years due to funding issues, but we will continue to talk about that. But so there's no confusion, we are continuing with the permitting process that we were going through, because that permitting process included other objects, other projects within it, one of which is specifically the addition of the wastewater treatment line on the south side of the airport, and that's still on the state's capital improvement plan, so we need to get that process done. We will have our meeting on Thursday night, open to the public, and if you have any other questions, we're here to answer any questions tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fosdick. Is there anyone on the board who'd like to respond to Mr. Fosdick? Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes, I had a question. Thank you so much for the update, Mr. Fosdick. It's really good to hear that we're starting to make some progress on that. I know it's a long time coming. I just wanted to clarify what you said about the permitting process, because you mentioned that it would also, it's much more comprehensive than just the runway extension, but the runway extension would be included in that discussion. Am I understanding that correctly?
You are.
Okay.
You are. There were, first, the wastewater treatment plant, extension to the line on the south side. There was addition to the possibility of putting in a few more hangars.
Yeah, the runway.
The microphone.
Sorry, it's anything that was included in the technical master plan update, that's what the permitting's for. So that south side sewer line, runway reconstruction, runway extension, as well as Ken was saying, the additional possibility to build hangars. So that's what all the permitting's for. So it's all encompassing all those projects that were on the technical master plan update a couple years ago.
It would be great if we could put together some sort of a communication to the community to make them aware that that's what's happening, so that people don't misunderstand if they see I keep wanting to call it a railroad, but I'm sorry, the runway extension.
Understood. Yeah, and that's a goal of the commission right now, is a communication plan. So
and then my only other request would be, once you have a timeline established for the work that's been already approved, you're getting ready to start, if we could maybe create some sort of a timeline with some milestones that could then be communicated to the community, again, just to keep people informed about what's happening and when they can expect things to happen.
I think it's a great idea, yeah. I think we'll do that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Canty?
Since the airport's here, I mean, obviously the repaving was an issue that came up at this last town meeting, which thankfully passed, because to me, I know it was stated it wasn't a safety concern, but I would imagine the size of some of those cracks where a cell phone could disappear in it, I don't imagine that felt very good, particularly in a plane that's landing. So I'm glad that's done. But I think, like, really effectively, the video component of that presentation was important. And I think because I have noticed that one thing that Plymouth really abhors, like nature, is a vacuum. A vacuum of information will be filled with misinformation, speculation, fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And while it's good to be able to get out into the community whenever you can at precinct caucuses, COPC, select board meetings, things of that nature, obviously you can't be everywhere all the time. But if you put out more of those videos, and we can work with local scene on things of that nature, they can be distributed, disseminated, and then it's a uniform message that is able to be viewed by everyone wherever they are, and they can see the conditions on the ground. I know when I became a select board member, I went on a tour of the airport shortly after for a couple hours. Got to see Cape Cod Community College, got to see the Mass State Police Flight Wing, EMS, med-flight, which I had actually been med-flighted when I was a kid. I had a seizure, and a febrile seizure, and if the med-flight wasn't around, I wouldn't be here. So I think that those types of services are really important to see and know that they're in the airport, but not everybody is going to be able, like, even if you were to bring town meeting members, you're not going to be able to bring 162 people on that tour. You'd do nothing else for a year. So, but having a video component where people can see, this is what the airport is, this is what the airport's doing, this is what we want to do here, and being able to disseminate that and have it available and have it be like evergreen content, where whenever something comes up, you can just add the next thing. I would encourage you to avail yourself of that opportunity, because I think it's very effective and very clear, and then people can see with their own eyes, without having to physically be there, exactly what the conditions on the ground really are, which, I think that the airport brings a lot to the community. It's an economic driver. There are a lot of businesses in the industrial park here that benefit from it, have clients come in, go visit clients through it. It does bring in people for other purposes, tourism purposes, recreational purposes, other events. So I do think it is an asset in the community. But obviously, I don't need to tell you, there is a segment of the community that is unhappy with some of the operations. and working with them is important, but also communicating to the general public exactly what those conditions are in a clear, consistent, concise manner, I think will pay dividends for you in the long run. So I just would encourage you to continue availing yourself of that. Thank you.
Mr. Cohen?
Just like we echo Deb and Kevin's points, I think it's important to get an outline out to the community when you plan to meet and prepare for that meeting by doing as much outreach as you possibly can. And Kevin is right, it does, the airport does play a role in economic development for our town and region, and it plays a major role in the safety and well-being of our residents in terms of MedFlight and the state police operating from this location. There's one thing that I have learned since I came on the board, having an opportunity in this new capacity to be invited out to the airport to take a tour. It is an education. I have lived around the airport all my life, and to have that education is very helpful. I would, again, see what you can do to open the airport up and allow residents to go on a similar experience and tour to see the level, to see not only the state police operation, the MedFlight, but also the other supporting businesses associated with the airport, and most importantly, the Cape Cod Community College and its facility that it's running out at the airport, educating the next generation of young people in training and in technical capability. But at the same time, I want to make it clear that we should do as much as we possibly can to reach out to the neighbors around the airport. They're residents, they have concerns, and I think at town meeting someone got up during the debate and thought that this relationship could need some improvement, and I would have to echo that. So I think that Deb and Kevin and I are indicating some of the things that you can do to reach out to the neighborhood to reboot this relationship with the neighbors, because their quiet enjoyment of their homes has to be managed to a degree, and anything that you can do to establish that. One of the things that I think would be nice is to extend an invitation to residents to schedule some time to come out in small groups and take a look at the airport and see how it operates in the future plans. So thank you for all your work listening to the neighbors.
Please.
First, I'd like to thank Deb Quinto for getting us set up with that video. I think it's very effective, as Mr. Canty said, and we will continue to do that. One of the purposes of the CAC was to determine better ways of communicating with our community, and clearly there are much better ways today than there were 5 or 6 years ago. So we continue to do that, and we appreciate your support, and we will get on a better public relations. Thank you.
Is there anyone else from the public who'd like to speak on the airport? Please come up and introduce yourself. Take your time.
Lorraine Ramsey from West Plymouth, and it's sort of like a wish list, but everybody, and I'm referring to the airport, and the critical master plan, the update. And I know it's online, but I'm wondering would it be possible, and I'm willing to pay for it, or if copies could be distributed or available to the public. It's a 100-page document, but it's very informative. It shows the direction the airport is going in the future, what the plans are, and I think the public would love to read it. I want to read it, but I can't print it out. It's like 100 pages. My printer is not that robust, and there must be a template someplace with the printer that could make that master plan available to the public. I wouldn't mind a copy myself.
Thank you.
So would that be possible?
Well, I'll defer to the folks from the airport. Is that something that you could produce for folks who would be interested to get their hands on a printed copy?
Yes. Yeah, we could, yeah. I guess I don't know that we're going to go print 100 copies of it, but yeah, on a case-by-case basis, we could probably do that. Again, it is available online. Yeah. If you have the ability to download it and have it printed, that's possible. But we have some on hand right now, but I can have some others printed.
So contact the airport for copies.
Just give me like a week or so.
Jennifer Harris, town meeting member, precinct 13. As the retired library director of the Plymouth Public Library, may I suggest that you put a copy at the library? Just an idea.
We can do that. All right. Mr. Canty?
We could also put out, I don't know if you have them available, but like you could have like signs with QR codes that people could, at the library, at the airport rather, could scan the code and get it on their phone. It doesn't print it out for everybody, but that one's easy to distribute, free to everybody to just use their phone for that. And then, like we have, for example, at the table coming in here, we have some copies of our On the Move magazine for On the Road, lots of ons. But that's a shorter magazine, it's not 100 pages, so it's easier to print out more copies of it. But having maybe a few of them on hand for interested people and then gauge, because I don't think all 65,000 residents are going to want a copy, luckily, but I don't know what the level of interest is, but it could, even if you did have to print out 30 copies of it or something, and I know that's a lot of pages, but it still could do you a lot of benefit for the people that are really interested in getting into that. I would encourage, and I know we have, the town more broadly does print projects like that periodically. So if it's something that the airport itself couldn't accomplish, I'm sure we could coordinate and be able to do that more collaboratively to help out, since it is a municipal asset.
Anyone else? All right, that was 3 on the airport. So we will move on to a new topic, but we can certainly come back to that later. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on a new topic? Come on up.
Good evening, everybody. Stevie Keith, Precinct 10. Don't mind the mustache. I was Luigi for Halloween, and I haven't shaved yet, so you can deal with that. I'm here to give an update of the 5-gallon challenge. Last weekend, the community came together at Brabo Payroll. We raised over 12,000 pounds of food, water supplies, women's health products, you name it. It all went to the coalition, but I'm still getting a ton of stuff in. If you know of any food banks in need, let me know. I'm just distributing it as it comes in. We also raised $1,500 that went directly to food banks to get fresh produce for people in town that are in need. So really proud of this town, people coming together to step up to the plate, and that's all I got. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Mr. Keith, and thank you to your business and to Brabo for spearheading this. I know Mr. Hokinson was involved heavily as well, and yeah, several others. So thank you for helping to address some of the food insecurities that we have here in the community. Is there anyone else who'd like to respond?
I'm just clapping. I'll clap you out, Stevie.
All right.
Thank you.
Good luck. Is there anyone else in the room who'd like to speak either on the 5-gallon challenge or food insecurities in the community? Is there anyone online? No. All right. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on a new topic? Come on up.
Evan Malaguti, Precinct 2. I have a question of a topic that came up recently by a member in the North Plymouth community, even though it affects West Plymouth. During the pandemic, we voted on the purchase of the Franklin Marsh bogs on the Plymouth-Carver line by Plymouth Street. I believe this is 0 Plymouth Street in Carver and Plymouth. And it was for the addressing of the firm capacity for the town for our water, as well as for preserving that, transitioning it from cranberry bogs into passive recreation open space. And part of that plan was to eliminate the operation off of that property, including the plans for its sand and gravel operation. And I was wondering if that has been finalized, since the end date was for 2023. And still, I see some equipment that's on that property that was purchased by the town. I don't know if the plans have been finalized and their operations are done, or if the property is still skirting the end date proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Town Manager or Assistant Town Manager?
Mr. Malaguti, I'll have to follow up with you on that question. I don't have that information with me right now, but I'm happy to follow up and give you that answer.
Everett, you're always there to stump us. Appreciate it. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on that topic? Anyone online?
No.
All right, anyone from the board want to respond? Very good. All right, is there anyone who would like to speak on another topic? Come on up.
Hello, Emily Tompkins, Precinct 14, but I tend to go to many of these meetings. We have seen concerning ICE activity in town, especially in the North Plymouth area. People are being taken from our community without due process, and it's spreading fear in our community. I understand we can't stop ICE from being here, but I know this topic has been requested to be on a select board agenda in collaboration with the police chief around public safety. And I'm just seeing if there's an update for when this topic will be discussed by this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Tompkins. There are a lot of conversations that are going on about ICE in the community. As you've highlighted, we can't stop them from being here. It's an issue of the federal government, not for the town. But that being said, Mr. Cohen and I are meeting with a representative from the We Can group in the coming weeks. I think we have that scheduled for the 14th at noon. The town manager and I have been in discussion about when this item can go on to a future agenda. When there's an update, I will certainly let you know. Thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on, is there anyone else who'd like to respond? Mr. Canty?
Yeah, I think it is important to highlight that we can't stop ICE from operating within our borders, but we can, I would like to see us have regular communications with ICE, that they let the police department know when they're here, that they inform the police department so that families of people that are taken can find out that their loved one has been, because nationally we're seeing both people that are targets of investigations, others that are found along the way, and then some people, in some instances, U.S. citizens that are being scooped up in some of these ICE raids, which is alarming. We can also improve the conduct of ICE in the community. I mean, during the Obama administration, more people were deported than any other president in recent history, and yet they weren't conducting themselves in this way. They're leaving a car in the middle of a busy intersection in North Plymouth. No state police, FBI, any other agency would not arrest someone and leave a vehicle in an intersection abandoned like that without addressing it. That is alarming. So the manner and means by which they conduct their federally authorized work is something I think that we can influence and control. Some people have reached out to me that are on the other side of this issue, because I have been trying to advance it for the safety and integrity of the community. And saying that, what can one town do? Well, we're not just one town, we're Plymouth. We're part of the fabric of this country. So I think our voice means more than other communities do. And I also think that we have a duty as the community to look out for all of our residents and advocate that they be respected and treated as human beings, no matter where they're from and what brought them here, what circumstances they find themselves in. I think whatever side of this issue you are nationally, the select board cannot affect that. But what we can affect is the way in which it is conducted in our community. And I don't understand why anyone would want ICE to conduct themselves in the way that they are conducting themselves. So I'm very eager to have this issue addressed by this board, and for us to take a stand against injustice in this community and the way and sort of unnecessary increase in public safety risk that no other organization I've ever seen in law enforcement has ever caused as such a routine matter. So I am very eager to see this on a future agenda, and I look forward to being able to discuss it more substantively. Thank you.
Any other responses from the board?
Thank you for your responses, and look forward to hearing from you, Mr. Golden.
Thank you. Mr. Cohen?
Just to reiterate and build on what the chairman, Mr. Golden, and Kevin Canty have indicated, that yes, there is a meeting planned in the near future to address the issues that fall under our control. Obviously, there are state and federal agencies that we do not, or county that we do not have control of, but obviously we have the responsibility here in Plymouth in terms of the safety of its residents. And that's what the goal we're working towards, to open up this dialogue, to allow this discussion to occur. Later on tonight, under old and new business, we'll have an opportunity to probably touch on a memo that we're in possession of that's coming in from a committee here in Plymouth that we appoint called Plymouth for All. They've submitted an outline of some research that they've been working with in terms of this issue that could be helpful to the board as we work towards a eventual discussion with the town on the matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Others from the board? I'll just add to the conversation that we have put out statements through the Plymouth Police Department and through the Plymouth school systems. The substance of those communications were largely that the town will comply with all federal and state laws, which I think ought to be what the position of the town is on these matters. So more to come in the future, and as I said, Ms. Tompkins, I will personally reach out to you when we get it scheduled up. Anyone else in the room who'd like to speak on ICE? Anyone online?
No.
All right, very good. Is there anyone in the room who'd like to speak on another subject that we haven't yet spoken about? Is there anyone online who'd like to speak on a matter we haven't spoken about?
No.
Excellent. Is there anyone in the room who would like to revisit a topic that we've already covered? All right. Is there anyone online who would like to revisit a topic that we've already covered?
No.
All right. Well, thank you folks for being here tonight. Even if you didn't bring up a subject, we are so happy to see you. I think it's important that we have these community discussions in the community itself. I appreciate your attendance, and we look forward to addressing some of the issues that were brought up here tonight. All right, we'll move on to the agenda into select board discussion. Now, before we begin, I want to address a recurring procedural matter that has come up a number of times regarding agenda setting. As the chairman of this board, I'm responsible in consultation with the town manager for determining the timing and the order of items that are brought before us. Each member has submitted requests for discussion, and I want to emphasize that I'm working to address each and every one of them. Some examples are Mr. Cohan asked for the sand and gravel discussion to be advanced. We've done that in a previous meeting. Mr. Quinto asked for chip sealing to be addressed. We discussed that at our most recent meeting. Mr. Canty asked for the climate adaptation plan update to occur. We're going to do that at our next meeting. And Ms. Iaquinto has asked for a hearing on the proposed e-bike regulation that we're putting forward as a special act. We're going to do that actually on the 25th. So I want folks to know that I'm working towards scheduling all of those items. However, not all items can be scheduled simultaneously. Some are time sensitive. For example, the e-bike public hearing is being put on the 25th because we're going to be closing the warrant in mid-December, and we want to get that in and get public feedback before we actually put forward our proposal. Other items are cyclical, necessary to keep the town operating and or to meet statutory deadlines. An example of that is the upcoming tax classification hearing. These items often take precedence over requested agenda items, but I want to reaffirm the promise that I made on the night I became chairman, that this agenda will be ours and not just one person's. To provide clarity on this process, I asked early on that our executive assistant include at the bottom of each agenda an upcoming agenda items section that listed all of the matters that have already been scheduled for discussion. This was intended to give my colleagues notice that their requests are being addressed and that the scheduling is underway. I share all of this because I know that scheduling has been a hot button item and a major point of contention for this board in the recent past. And I don't want to return to that dynamic. I'm always happy to discuss with my colleagues the work that is being done outside of these meetings to address their requested agenda items. I am just a phone call away. But I will say this once and only once. The list at the bottom of each agenda will reflect those items that are already scheduled. All other requests are to be scheduled. Persistent requests on updates on the specific timing of individual items distracts from our shared responsibilities, make staff, fellow board members, and the public uncomfortable, and undermine the collaborative tone that we worked hard to rebuild in our recent workshop. If you would like an update or request about your individual items, please reach out to me directly. I appreciate everyone's cooperation as we continue to balance the board's priorities fairly, efficiently, and transparently. And with that, I will open new business. I do have one item myself. As I said, we are going to adjust the schedule. On November 25th, we're going to be having a meeting. We had previously scheduled that to be a week off for the Thanksgiving holiday. But as I said, we're going to reactivate that meeting so that we can have our hearing on e-bikes. We may have some other items on the agenda. When we when we post our agenda for November 18th, you'll be able to see the list of items that are scheduled then. Is there anyone else who has new business? Mr. Canty.
So there used to be, and I assume that there still is, a list online of all upcoming meetings that are scheduled and any agenda items that are scheduled for those, that is farther out in the future than this sort of brief summary that's on our posted agenda here. So I would ask that at a minimum, that document be shared with all board members in a read-only capacity so we can see when things are put on that, so that we know not only the things that when we are requesting that they be put on an agenda, but also there are things that we have to take up that are beyond our individual priorities. As you said, the tax classification hearing, we have to hear town meeting articles at certain times. We have to execute the warrant at certain times. We get requests for public hearings. And obviously, we don't want individual meetings to be, if we can avoid it, having just come off one last week that was 5.5 hours long. If we could have ones that are more manageable in time, that would be beneficial. Obviously, we have a lot of work to do as well, but having that access to that document would help us, I think, in being able to schedule and plan and see when the priorities that we have brought up are going to be addressed, because we are getting asked questions by members of the public that have reached out to us about some of these topics. Some of them are also topics that are relevant to our select board goals, and that if they don't get achieved within a certain time of the year, it's unlikely that they will be achieved at all, because if they're not factored into the budgetary calculus at the appropriate time, then they will be pushed aside for some other reason. And sometimes there may be a good justification for not accomplishing a goal that we had at the beginning of the year because something came up during that year. But I think currently this list is significantly shorter than in time and scope than that document that I used to have access to. And I think it's important that every board member have access to that so that we can bring those items up. Further, when a board member asks for an item to be put on an agenda, I think that they are asking for their opportunity to speak about it. And I know that for some of the items that I have requested, that I've been told that you were, for example, working on that item, which is not what I requested. I requested that it be put on the agenda so that we could discuss it as a board and work on it as a board. So I do find a difference there between you working on one of my priorities, as for instance, versus us being able to talk about it as a board, which is the intention of the request. So with those things in mind, you should factor that into your agenda setting and planning purposes as well, so that everybody has all the information and can go forward
Mr.
with
Canty,
it.
I'm not going to be lectured by you on how to set the agenda. We're in this position because of your manner of handling the agenda. So I've made my statement on how the agenda will move forward, and I think that'll be enough for now. Do you have anything else for new business? Any other items?
I would say that the way you're handling it is not appreciably better than the way it was handled before.
Thank you for your
And I think
feedback.
you've
I'll take that into consideration. Do you have other new
demonstrated that
business?
significantly.
Do you have other new business?
That is all that I have this
Thank you.
evening, Mr. Gold.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much for scheduling the e-bike hearing on the night of November 25th. I think this is an issue that has been subject of some spirited discussion in town. There was a Plymouth Independent article about it, and Facebook took over for a little bit. And so there's some really passionate people on both sides of this issue. So that's why I think it's going to be just a great asset for us to have the information, hear from all sides on this topic on the 25th. But I do Mr. Brindisi, I was wondering if you might be able to elaborate a little bit on the public hearing process, because I think you also said that there would be an opportunity for written comments. I recognize that that's a holiday week, so people might not be able to make it in person, but there will be an opportunity to provide written comments on that subject.
Yeah, sure. So, Town Council, Attorney McKay, is based upon the feedback that she received at, I believe it was last week's meeting, will provide a second, would be actually a third revision to the proposed special legislation. Already working with Casey Kennedy, who's our communications coordinator. Once that revised special legislation is ready, Casey coordinator will advertise the public hearing with the legislation so folks can read it well in advance. We're hoping to advertise that over the next 2 weeks. Then the public hearing will take place, as you pointed out, Messiah Quinto, on November 25th. And then we'll set up a process for about 7 days thereafter for those folks who are not able to attend to provide written comment to the proposed legislation. We'll take the verbal input on the 25th and the written input over the course of the 7 days. We'll use that, we'll present that information back to the board at a future meeting prior to the closing of the warrant so that the board can consider all public commentary before the final deliberations.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Cohen?
Yes, just a quick note. At some point, probably, we should have David Gould from the Office of Energy and the Environment working on Gristmill, on Jenny Gristmill. It'd be nice to know how things are going along. Are they on schedule as the winter sets in? If it's much more efficient in terms of a busy agenda, maybe we can get a written update from him. That would be helpful to the board. Just to see where we are on Jenny Gristmill and just make sure people know that there are still businesses operating at the gristmill and you can still get access to there. So that's important to note. I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago, and I know that the Director of Public Works, Mr. Coyne, was looking into the bump on State Road on Warren Ave at Mantis Point. It seems to be a little bit more pronounced, especially when trucks are carrying things going over it. I'm hearing from some of the abutters and neighbors around this bump. So if you're pulling a trailer and it's full of something, it does magnify the effect of what's going on at that state road. Now, as the weather gets slicker and wetter and icier, having a bump like that, people moving along, if they can't address the bump issue, at least put a sign up saying, prepare for a bump. Because we start living with the bump, but I'd rather see if we can do something out there at Mantis Point where it refers where this bump is on the road. Also, I know that we're working on committee appointments. It's good to note that the deadline closes November 11th for the Sand and Gravel Committee. So if you're thinking about serving on that committee, you should get your resume in by the 11th, because I believe we'll be appointing by December 2nd.
Yeah, I think we might do some of our appointments on the 25th, either before or after the public hearing, but yeah, either the 25th or the 2nd, right, Jade?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
And I just want to make sure that the Memorials Committee and Little Red Schoolhouse are part of that equation. I just want to make sure that. The other thing I have here tonight before you leave, I have a little disclaimer. We're going to be working on the habitat location. I wanted my fellow board members to get the rules and regs relevant to that event that we have planned. And then finally, at town meeting, there was another article there at town meeting about the Economic Development Foundation in the form of Article 26. I did have a chance to attend a number of caucuses and different meetings. It was the intent of the legislative body to encourage the select board to revisit the Economic Development Foundation in terms of how we interact with it. Obviously, we need economic development, but we also need transparency and accountability. I want to just say, after town meeting, I guess I've been encouraged, and I hope that in the near future we can, as a board, come to a point where we can put something on the agenda where we can discuss how we can improve that situation. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Quintal, do you have any news from your most recent meeting?
I wasted some fuel. It's been continued till January 13th, but.
Well, thank you for making the trip and for being our eyes and ears on the ground. Do you have any other new business? Ms. Iaquinto?
Just one thing. Yeah, I just wanted to elaborate on what Mr. Cullen has requested around discussion of the Plymouth Foundation. I would love to do that within the broader context of economic development within the town, to understand where the foundation may or may not fit in what we're, what we think is the best approach to take to economic development. So perhaps if we broaden that conversation to include additional issues beyond just the foundation, that would be valuable.
Thank you. Mr. Canty?
I think as part of that, and I would agree with Ms. Iaquinto, but the possibility of whether it is in tandem, in conjunction with, or in addition to having in-house economic development, plus anything that the foundation is going to do, or if we want to reconfigure the total operation. But I think talking about all those things, sort of a global solution, because many board members who are currently serving, myself included, ran on one of our priorities was economic development. Economic development is obviously a moving target, but there are some things that we could certainly do to improve that, and not only improve the outputs, but also, because of some of the concerns in the community, improve the inputs, so that people are less concerned about how it's being conducted and that it's happening in the sunshine in more ways. And I think having that type of a conversation could only be beneficial to the board and the community in the medium and long term.
Mr. Quintal?
Yeah, I've been working and discussing with different individuals about when Lauren Lynn takes over in the planning department, maybe it's a time to look at that whole department. You heard issues tonight about enforcement. There's different things, I'm not going to go into them all right now, but before the building commissioner signs off on them, these should all be checked off. I'd like to see business development brought back to the planning board. And it's not to shed a bad cast on the foundation. I sat on there for many years, as with different town managers, different chairmen. And the reason it was set up that way, so they could have a working relationship, the town and an economic foundation. However, when I look at the last 10 years, I ask myself, are we really getting the bang for our dollar? You hear everybody talk about it, they run on it. Well, now is an opportunity time not to have a discussion, but to look right at the planning department of our own town. That's what they should be doing, planning. We have different areas of town. I'm not going to go into them today. I touched on them a little bit at town meeting, where you could go up in height in certain areas and not be in neighborhoods. It's already damaged land, if you will, disturbed. And we have to do things as a community. We used to have TIFs back in the day. I don't know what the legality is to that, but we need to have somebody in that office going out and approaching Whole Foods, going out for, what's the other one everybody's looking for? Trader Joe's. And then you hear that it won't happen because they got an Aldi's. You know what? You call them, you sit down with them, you reach out to them, you give them a break on the sewer hookup if you have to, and you make something attractive to them so they will come to this town, and that's how we're going to do it. Mm-hmm. So we can either go as we're going, which isn't too good, and or we can go out and promote ourselves and compete with other communities, and that's what we have to do. Not to a extent, that we need a lot more traffic, because we don't, but we do have a lot of empty buildings and a lot of empty sites, and that's for a lot of reasons and for another time. But I just want to say it's not to throw rocks at the foundation. I sat on it. However, when that word comes that nobody likes, transparency, I think it can be better. And, let's do our homework. Let's have a real discussion. Let's hear what Lauren has to say, and we can make recommendations and have the conversation then, because I'd like to see I've said it before, and I'm very serious in working on it, Office of Business Development and Tourism. We also have Lee Filson, who heads up Sea Plymouth and a few other hats through the state and grants. Now's the time to look at that also. Are we promoting our town the way we want to? We spend like $500,000 here or there. I don't know the exact number, but it's about $500,000 per contract. So I think we need to pay attention to that and make sure we're getting what we want. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Quintal. I can see that this is an issue that the entire board would like to speak about, so I will schedule this for the earliest opportunity. Is there any additional new business? Mr. Cohen?
When I brought up the idea, it was as a result, I think we're all on the same page on this idea, that we've all been encouraged to look at this, but Dickie and Deb bring up a very good point that this opens up another avenue of opportunity, and that is looking at the Office of Planning and Development, looking at Sea Plymouth. I think that what we should be trying to do is working as a group to come up with kind of an outline of a meeting that would take place that would be dedicated to this discussion on those three levels. So that might be a way of facilitating amongst ourselves some of the thoughts that we have to give to staff to structure a meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other new business? Mr. Canty?
Following up on what Mr. Cohen just said, I think too, like we talk about ourselves and what we think, but I think we could then subsequently have a joint meeting with the planning board as well, because they have obviously opinions of their own. They're also elected officials. They work obviously very closely with the planning department. So I think that this is the would benefit from an iterative process as well. So I would hope that we would avail ourselves of that opportunity. I know we're supposed to have a minimum of a certain number per year, but we can have more than that because we've had some about the master plan. I'm sure we're going to have some more about the master plan. We had the whole tech master plan as well as the general master plan, but I think that would be beneficial, and I think they would also probably appreciate being involved in the discussions.
All right. We're starting to really discuss this item, so I'd prefer that we move on, and I'll get this on the agenda in the near future. Thank you for your comments, Mr. Canty. And I'll approach Mr. Bulletin on that as well. Other new business? Letters? Yes.
Just to, I think we're all in possession of a letter that, mostly a memo that was sent to the board from Plymouth for All. Plymouth for All was once known as No Place for Hate, a committee founded around the year 2001, and we've been appointing that committee for a number of years, obviously. They've been working on this issue that came up earlier this evening about different law enforcement agencies operating in Plymouth and some of the thoughts that they have after looking into the matter. So I think it's, they've supplied a memo to us. We should take a look at that and at some point maybe invite Plymouth for All to come before the committee if this memo is something that we want to further discuss that they've provided us. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other letters? Old business, I have two items. I think I mentioned this at our last meeting, but the vice chairman and I are planning on meeting with Melissa Ferretti from the Herring Pond Tribe this coming Friday to discuss some of the conversations surrounding a land acknowledgement. I'll certainly provide an update to the board at some point after that meeting. And I mentioned it earlier in this meeting that Mr. Cohen and I are going to be meeting with a representative from the We Can group to discuss the ICE discussion in town. And again, that's scheduled for the 14th, and I will provide an update to the board after I've had that conversation as well. Any other old business? Hearing and seeing none, we'll move on. Action item discussion. I think, Ms. Iaquinto, you asked to put this on the agenda for the On the Roads. Yep. I'm happy to let you start us off.
Well, in terms of the action items that came up out of this meeting, I think the one that we heard loud and clear was about the following up on special permits and making sure that any special conditions were being executed properly. So I think that was a big one. The other one I heard was around safety issues related to traffic. And I think that we had suggested that C-Click Fix was probably the best route to go. But we can reinforce that and maybe revisit the specific items that were brought up and see if there's anything more that we can do proactively rather than waiting for that information to come to us. Let's see, what else did we have here? I think those were the two big ones. And then, of course, we've had the discussion about addressing the ICE issue and the economic development issue as well. But I think those were the big ones that I heard that came out of tonight's meeting.
I would agree. Others? Mr. Cohen?
I would just add a little clarification, yes, on the enforcement of the orders of conditions relevant to special permitting processes that take place. I think specifically we might want to just make a note to Route 80, the buffer that's underway. We're going to be planted. There's some planting that's going on now. Whether or not it makes it through the winter, and maybe there might be some future planting. So I would put under that section that you just outlined, and you referenced the special permitting enforcement process as it relates to the Route 80 buffering landscaping issue.
Mr. Canty?
Yeah, I think circling back to C-Click Fix and also circling back to my comments earlier about the videos, it could be beneficial for the town to work with the local scene to put together a little brief tutorial that is a video on C-Click Fix so that it could be distributed to the different steering committees, because a lot of these complaints about local, like the list that the West Plymouth Steering Committee had tonight was a lot of things that I'm sure they're getting from individual members of their village, and if they knew about C-Click Fix, how to use it, and if they had a video they could distribute to anybody that was giving them these types of issues, then you could teach a man to fish as opposed to having to fish for them. And that would be something that we could use in a variety of different contexts to empower residents to report issues themselves, and get it automatically in the work queue, as I had alluded to earlier. So I would encourage us to seek that as a potential long-term solution that would probably not require a tremendous amount of effort, but would be very useful to have something on board to use and disseminate.
Thank you. Other old business? Oh, excuse me, other action items? All right. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Mr. Quintal makes the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Iaquinto seconds. Any discussion? Hearing and seeing none. Mr. Cohen?
Aye.
Mr. Cohen votes yes. Mr. Quintal?
Yes.
Mr. Canty?
Yes.
Ms. Iaquinto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. We are adjourned. Thank you.